Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Our time is running out. Our time is running out. You can't push it underground. You can't stop it screaming out. Doodle daddle doodle daddle doodle 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 doodle.
Ad nauseum. What's up, everybody?
I like that song.
Yes.
We didn't do it justice, but I like the song.
I love the song. We've done Muse before, and
Yeah.
it's always is like there's that. Typically, we find a lot of songs where we're like, I don't know that one. Oh, do you know that one? But Muse, we always typically know all of them.
I love Muse. They're great.
Yeah. What's up, everybody? You are watching / listening to the Command Zone podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai. Man, I'm sweating already. It's hot in here. It's like 95 out today here in sunny Southern California.
If you didn't know why we sung that song, it's called Time is Running Out. M21 has to ferry in it. He plays with time. The end. Okay. It
totally makes sense. Everybody knew that. You didn't even have to explain it.
We're not even talking about Teferi today, but you know what? We sang about him.
Yeah, so M21, it's here. It's fully spoiled now, so we can talk about it. We're going to be splitting up our set review into two parts like we have done lately. So this is going to be the show where we talk about all the new commanders, all the new legendary creatures in the set. We're going to talk about the synergies, the combos we see for each and every single one of them.
Yep, and it's going to be a lot of cards to be talked about. There aren't as many legendaries, but there are tons of cards, as you can see by the many pages in front of us. And if you want to get your hands on some of these cards, maybe you're inspired to make this deck when it comes out because M21 is right around the corner. You're going to want to head over to cardkingdom.com/commandzone. That's our affiliate link. It's our #1 place to go whenever we need to buy singles, sealed products, or anything in the Magic world. In fact, I just bought a full deck, my Paco and Halden deck. I pressed one button from our tapped out link and boom, I did it all. But I also made sure to enter in the affiliate code link and I got it within 2 days, Josh.
Yeah, I just ordered the stuff for my Obosh deck as well. Same thing. Got it super fast. So
damage will be dealt.
It's going to be a fast game if you and I play against each other. Because you'll steal all my cards, which also do damage to everybody. So either way, it'll be fast.
High five.
Yeah. So cardkingdom.com/commandzone. You can also pre-order the M21 stuff right now. Mm-hmm. There's Double Masters coming up. There's Mystery Boosters, Commander Legends coming up. There's C20 stuff that they got back in stock. So lots to get your hands on. And something else you're going to want to get your hands on if you buy all those cards is ways to protect them.
Yep.
You know that Jimmy and I only trust one company to protect all of our game pieces. It's UltraPro. You want to put your expensive cards into nicely clipped sleeves so that you make sure that they stay safe in pristine condition. You want to put them into Satin Tower deck boxes. You want to play them onto nice playmats. You really do want to make sure that all of your cards and your game pieces stay safe, stay in good condition.
And don't forget, you can actually get a lot of this stuff at cardkingdom.com/commandzone as well. So, you know, if you can't make it to your LGS or to a big box retailer, a lot of the UltraPro product is there, including binders and stuff. Binders is a big part of protecting your collection when they're not just sort of in sleeves in the big box somewhere. It's a way to look at what you have and a great way to start deck building too.
Yeah, it's great to know what you've got because if it's in like one of those big long boxes, a lot of times I'm just like, I don't want to go through all that. But going through your binders is fun.
Yeah, and you can show friends as well your cool collection.
And the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/commandzone. You get to chat with Jimmy and myself on our Discord each and every day. You get to watch game nights earlier than everybody else. All kinds of perks and rewards. We really do appreciate everybody that supports us that way. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of the other perks is we call out one lucky patron every single episode. And this episode is dedicated to Carl Isenzi.
I sense that you're a part of our Patreon, and thus you
rock. Sorry, Carl, we probably messed up your last name. We did our best.
Yeah, but we made a pun out of it.
I like how if we don't know how to pronounce it, we just say it 3 different ways, and it's just like, hey, one of those maybe is right.
Shoot your shot. All right, so this is the new Commander review for M21. We're only going to be discussing the new legendary creatures. There's a lot of awesome reprints, like Azusa. So glad that's back. And we're not going to talk about them.
We're not going to talk about Azusa for sure. She is a legendary creature, but...
You know what she does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually we talk about the new mechanics at the start of set reviews, but this is a core set, so there aren't really any new mechanics. There's nothing like Mutate or Companion. Mm-hmm. I think they were like, listen, that's plenty. Let's just go ahead and do the normal stuff for this one.
And typically in core sets too, the thing that they want to they want to bring new people into the sets, and all the cards, if it says like lifelink on it, it'll usually say, what that does in detail as well. That's a detail they always put into the core set text.
All right, there are 10 new legendary creatures in this set. All but 2 of them are mono-colored, so we definitely have a mono bend to this whole set. And the first one, a lot of people are excited about. It's MANGARA the DIPLOMAT.
It's happening, Josh.
3 and a white. It's a mono white commander for a 2/4 legendary human cleric. Has lifelink. Says whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, draw a card.
Ooh.
Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card.
Okay, all right. This is conditional, but it's better. And that second line of text is pretty sweet.
I'm with you there. I think the first line of text is the one where if your opponent attacks you with 2 or more creatures, you or planeswalkers you control, you draw a card. That's pretty unlikely to happen. And if it does, your opponent's like allowing it to happen.
Yeah.
But the second part, whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you draw a card. You're going to draw cards and quite a few cards off of that ability. I believe like from turn 4 or so on, you're likely to draw a little, probably on average, more than 1 card per rotation of the table. It's probably like 1.5 cards or something because people cast multiple things once they get to about 5 mana.
Yeah, we've seen it so many times, ramp spell plus small spell.
Yep.
And not to mention this is on each turn. It doesn't just mean their turn. If someone's an Instance Matters deck, they pass the turn to cast 2 spells, then you're also drawing a card. So that's pretty cool.
I mean, that's card draw in white. You're right, it's conditional. Less conditional than most card draw we've seen in white before.
Yeah. Well, this doesn't have you paying any mana for it either, which is nice. It is, however, conditional on other people doing stuff. So I think this is kind of falling in line into what white card draw might be, which is other players are doing things and you're putting like restrictions on them.
Yeah, for sure.
Taxing them in a way.
In a way, but it's not in the bad way that a lot of white cards like Spirit of the Labyrinth stops people from drawing cards. Right. Nobody really likes that to happen and they'll try and kill you for it. Whereas they don't kill you for this type of effect usually, like Rhystic Study type effects.
Yeah.
You draw the cards, but it doesn't affect their ability to play the game in any way. So that's just kind of like a mild annoyance, but they don't feel like, I better kill that player because they're not allowing me to do stuff.
Yeah.
They're still doing the normal stuff. You're just getting a little value while they do it.
And if you're in mono white, I don't think anyone's going to be like, that's broken.
Yeah.
Stop them immediately. While my green-blue deck cries over here. It's like, no, you're fine still.
We're probably going to reference Game Nights a little bit because we did shoot the M21 episode already, and I will just say that I considered building Mangara as my deck for this upcoming episode. Here's the thing that I found about the commander, though, is that because everything in it is up to your opponents,
right?
It's hard to find a lane, a path, a target to aim at when you're building the deck. And what I ended up starting to build was just like mono white good stuff.
Yep.
And I was just I started to get a little bit bored when I was building it. And I did, spoiler alert, I moved on and chose a different commander because I was like, I don't want to build that one. So it's going to be interesting. We're going to talk about some cards here, but it is a little bit hard, I think, to build around this card, even though I do think it's good.
Yeah, maybe this isn't technically the commander that is white savior in terms of build around me to make the best mono white deck ever. I think this has a great place in Boros decks.
Right, it's a more in the 99 card maybe?
Yeah, just cards, like the first part of the text, right? Let's say you do want to control combat. White's actually not great at this. I was looking through a lot of cards. Master Warcraft is one that came to mind. It's a Boros card that's an instant. You can cast it before attackers are declared, and you choose which creatures attack this turn and which creatures they block and how those creatures block. So you can kind of control combat that way.
You're like, you're going to attack me with the 2 smallest things.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it wasn't great. There's like Thantis the Warweaver, but this card doesn't even go in that deck. Marisi, Breaker of the Coil, but then you're goading their creatures to attack.
And they can't attack you, right?
Yeah.
You goad their stuff and they have to attack somebody that's not you, so that doesn't actually help them, you draw cards there.
Yeah, there was an interesting one called Arbiter of Null Ridge, which I thought was really funny. It's 6 and a white for a 5/5 with Vigilance Giant Wizard. When it enters the battlefield, each player's life total becomes the highest life total among all players. And I was like, okay, maybe we reset the life totals. Players are incentivized to attack more.
Sure, okay.
So we're jumping through some hoops here.
I'm stretching so hard.
A Crow and Horse. Send them the old Trojan horse.
Yep, that actually is a good one.
Yeah, at the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent creates a 1/1 white soldier creature token, so they're more willing to send them into their death. The only problem is I don't think they're going to target you if you have
you have a 2/4 lifelinker. They're not swinging
they
with
don't want to swing with that.
Yeah.
Maybe Pramicon decks kind of like this. Hey, you're the token deck. I will make sure that you can attack me. But then do you want to do that?
Usually you choose the deck that's the least attacky to...
Yeah.
You're like, you're an instants and sorceries deck, so I'm going to choose that direction.
It was at this point I was like, white's good at stopping people from attacking you. They're not good at incentivizing incentivizing them necessarily.
Maybe you just try and life gain so that you can just weather attacks. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the first line of text about the attacking is going to be the least useful in Mangara, and you'll rarely draw cards off of it. And it's
and
just
when
hard
you
to build
do,
around.
it's like, hey, I just hit you for 13 to 25 to maybe deadly damage. Because
That's what they're going to do. They're just going to wait, and they're going to be like, I'll attack you with one creature, 50 creatures, you're dead. Yeah, haha, you got to draw one card. Okay,
At the worst possible time, too.
Let's talk about the second line of text, which is much shorter, but I think much better. It's that whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, draw a card.
Yeah, this I think opens up a lot more possibilities because maybe you do want to play a somewhat group huggy-esque thing with like...
Oh, you give them resources
Give them
then they're
resources.
encouraged to like,
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah,
Okay.
and benefit yourself, hopefully. Like Mana Flare is one of those cards where it's Toon Red for an enchantment, so a Boros deck. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. So now you're doubling everyone's mana, and maybe you're doubling their spell count.
Oh, they're definitely going to cast more spells if you do that, so you get to draw more cards.
Yep.
Okay, all right.
I think Selvala Explorer Returned is pretty cool here, too. Tapper, everyone's gaining... you gain some life, everyone draws a card, and they're all parlaying and revealing cards. You're adding more mana, but you're also in green, so maybe you don't need the card draw as much in that case.
Still, group huggy stuff makes a lot more sense, actually, to me. Because you're often enabling them, giving them resources. That could work.
Benevolent Offering is that sort of weird, like you and opponent both do something, and then you and another opponent both do something. But in this case, you're giving someone 3/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying, saying, please attack me. The problem with this card is that there are more than one player in the game.
Right. Exactly. So they're just incentivized to not give you a card, right? Unless I don't know why they would.
Yeah, so I was like, Gear per Ori helps everyone else out. But at the same time, like, once you play too many of these cards, you're just actually hurting yourself more than anyone else. So it's hard, I think, really to actually find a place to locate where Mangara really shines.
I think Mangara is going to be played, and I'm not saying it's at the same power level of this card, but it's kind of like Smothering Tithe in that if you're a white deck and you are in white and red, mono white,
Right.
or you don't have a lot of card draw in your deck for whatever reason, this will actually draw you a decent amount of cards just naturally off other players playing multiple spells in a turn. It's just a very common thing for people to play 2 spells in a turn after like turn 5. Like at least one of your 3 opponents is going to do that, and there will be times when all 3 of them do, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
And so I think this card will average you a little over 1 extra card per rotation of the table, which is like, you know, Phyrexian Arena, a little bit better than that maybe, but it is 1 more mana than Phyrexian Arena. It doesn't deal damage to you. Obviously,
Can get removed.
yeah,
really
it's
easily.
a creature though, so it can get removed. Like, there's a lot of ups and downs, but as far as like card draw, I mean, white doesn't have a card that you would compare to Phyrexian Arena, really, right? So this is actually a good step.
It's a great step. It's also like, it's not the dream card that everyone wants. It doesn't say tap, draw a card or anything. So I don't know. I can see this having its place in a lot of mono white decks. Boros decks for sure.
Marty decks maybe.
Yeah, but once you start getting into the other colors that can draw cards better, a little less incentivized to put this in here, especially because it's really just that last line of text that matters.
I think this is at the right power level, though. We said over and over, I don't think you fix white by making more Smothering Tithe power cards, more Teferi's Protection level cards. You fix white by making more Cultivate level cards, Phyrexian
Utility
Arena
players.
level cards.
Yeah, totally.
The bread and butter that the other colors have. And I think this could be like that for white. So this is a good... I guess this discussion is a good transition into a point here we wanted to talk about, because on Morrow's blog, which is called, Mark Rosewater's blog, which is called Blogatog, there was an interesting little sequence of discussion about Mangara. And so somebody asked Mark, considering you've said in the past that giving white card draw is not the answer, since it is an intentional downside, what exactly about Mangara's abilities bypasses this thought? So somebody's basically asking Mark, hey, you've said in the past you don't want to give white card draw. Mangara seems to do that. What gives?
Right.
And Mark's answer was...
Are you going to say it in Mark's voice?
I can't do it.
I've come to realize that I need a reframe of how I thought of white. Card draw is too fundamental to the game to cut out of a color. I'm not doing that anymore because someone probably just turned the podcast off.
You got to do it louder, but it was pretty good.
Yeah. And maybe a little less high pitched.
And he says we're still going to keep it, meaning white, 5th in card draw, but we're working to figure out how to make card draw organically white in a way that doesn't undercut its philosophy or flavor.
Oh, okay.
So I love this exchange because it's Mark saying, you know what, I was wrong, not wrong, but
maybe a little not synced with what I think needs to happen.
My thoughts on it have evolved to the point where I do agree that white needs some card draw. And I like that because we've been saying white needs this. And the fact that, the head game designer person at Wizards is saying, you know what? Yeah, we're going to try and fix this a little bit.
Yeah.
I think could go a long way. So I'm really glad to hear this from Mark. I'm hoping that we see more and more stuff from white. And it just goes along with what we say. Like every time I see a Wizards person, the last thing I want to say to them is, hey, make some good white cards, will you?
Yeah.
So I think we're chipping away. It's working.
Yeah, and I also think that, as we've talked about before, Commander is clearly the most popular format in Magic. It's the one that casual players and hardcore players all alike can join in on, and this is something that they've come to realize as well. That's why we have so much Commander product now, and it's a good sign, right? I think reframing, retooling, this is something that's a very common theme in society right now, which is like, maybe we need to look again at this thing, the system that we built, and find ways to make it better for everyone.
Yep.
So there you go. Cool.
All right, so the next Commander on the list is the Buy a Box promo. A lot of people are really excited about this one. You want to read it, Jimmy?
Yeah, it's Rin and Seri Inseparable. It's 1 and Naya, so red, green, and white for a legendary creature, Dog Cat. It's a 4/4. And it says, whenever you cast a dog spell, create a 1/1 green cat creature token. And whenever you cast a cat spell, create a 1/1 white dog creature token. And then for Naya, and you can tap Rin and Seri. Rin and Seri deals damage to any target equal to the number of dogs you control, and then you gain life equal to the number of cats you control. So this is dog, cat, tribal.
Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Mass hysteria.
It's this is the first set where dogs are a thing. Dogs were not a creature type until now. They've errated a bunch of like old hounds and jackals.
Hounds? I don't think jackals are, but hounds are now dogs.
Yeah, so there's
cool.
more dogs out there than you would think. But yeah, we finally have some pups out there. This is pretty exciting.
There's also a ton of cats and dogs in the M21 set. We're not going to list them all here, but any of those cards can be put into consideration for a deck like this. But it's basically, look, let's make all of our cats and dogs very big, and then let's deal damage equal to how many we have, and whenever you cast one, you get more of them. It's like you're making a little litter of sorts.
Yeah, sure. My dog, when we have this is a total aside. We have a couple that watches her when we're out of town.
Right.
And they have a cat. They have a couple dogs and a cat, but she's like super good friends with their cat, and they'll like cuddle up on the couch together.
That's my dog's dream.
Kiwi loves cats?
Yeah, but Kiwi has pointy ears, and I've learned that is a very aggressive-looking animal because your ears are pointed up. I've actually heard that TSA is now trying to have more floppy-eared dogs because they're less intimidating.
Floppy as heck.
So maybe that affects her ability to interface with cats.
Yeah. Anyway, so I get all these cute pictures of my dog and the cat, like just basically like all rolled together.
We should get you an altar of Rin and Seri that's your dog.
Oh, yeah.
Because it kind of looks like Rin a little bit. Okay, so now that all the hounds are errated to dogs, let's take a look at some cards that would be good in this deck. Mongrel Pack is 3 and a green for a creature hound 4/1. When it dies during combat, which is kind of weird, create 4 1/1 green hound creature tokens. That's a lot.
That's a lot. And you could just sack it during combat or something.
Yes, absolutely.
And remember, hounds are dogs.
This is a creature. Okay, like, hey, it's a hound.
Did you know that BINGO, bingo? Yes, it's silver bordered, but it is a hound. It's that 1/1 with trample that got played in the game nights with Olivia and Tappy, where like every time somebody casts a CMC, you basically play bingo on the card, and then it gets huge eventually, but that actually never happens.
That was more of a joke entry into our discussion here. I think what's more interesting is that Changeling is really powerful.
Yeah.
Changelings are every creature type, and Rin and Seri cares about dogs and cats, so you're going to get double the bonus, basically, because it counts as a dog and a cat when it's on the battlefield.
Yeah, its activated ability is deal damage for dogs and gain life for cats. So if you have some changelings, they count for both sides of that.
Yeah. One of them recently was Birthing Bows. Booze. Artifact that costs 3 mana. You can tap it for 4 to create a 2/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token with changeling. So again, this counts as a cat and a dog.
That's pretty cool.
Which is cool. Yeah, so every changeling kind of does this, which is neat.
There's Irregular Cohort, which is 2 white for a 2/2. It's a changeling, but when it enters the battlefield, you make a 2/2 colorless shapeshifter creature token that's a change that is or has changeling.
Yeah.
So again, 4 mana, create 2 dogs and 2 cats simultaneously. I mean, it's 2 creatures still, but they're both dogs and cats. That's
great. I mean, that's the kind of value you're looking for here. The big daddy of changeling decks is Shapeshifter. It's a 1/1 that costs
Mirror Entity, you mean?
Mirror Entity, sorry.
It is a shapeshifter.
It is a shapeshifter. You can pay X until end of turn. Creatures you control have base power and toughness X, and gain all creature types.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
That's crazy. So even your dogs become cats, and your cats become dogs, and now you tap Rin this area once. You're doing a lot of damage, potentially.
Yeah.
Also, instants can also be changeling, which is kind of crazy.
There's not very many of them, but there's something like Crib Swap, which is 2 and white. For a tribal instant, Shapeshifter has changeling. This card is every creature type. So it's an instant that's a dog and a cat. And it says, exile target creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 colorless Shapeshifter creature token with changeling.
You can target yourself with this. Save if a creature's getting out of the way already, you kill it. Boom, you have a cat and a dog.
Yep.
If you want to go cat tribal, there's plenty of cards in Magic's history that can benefit this.
There's way more cats than dogs.
Yeah. Do you think that's fair?
I mean, no, but that's why they're trying to remedy that by creating dogs finally.
True. You would think that the dogs in a universe like this would be the ones getting rid of the cats, but the cats have risen to true power here.
I mean, I'm on the record as saying I'm more of a dog person.
Anyway, Kemba Regent, at the beginning of your upkeep, create a 2/2 white cat creature token for each equipment attack to Kemba. So if you want to go more Voltron-y with this, maybe you have Kemba in there, you're making cats all the time.
It feels like this deck is going to be more about creating cats, and then you'll have a few ways to, like, I create a bunch of creatures, they're cats, and then I turn them all into also dogs or dogs for this turn, and then get the value out of, Renaissari. Erebos is the cat commander in Celestia. There's Regal Caracal.
This might be the best cat of all time, actually.
Yeah, it's a cat lord that makes cats, so it's 3 white for a 3/3, but it says other cats you control get +1/+1 and have lifelink. And then when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 white cat creature tokens with lifelink, and it by itself is a 3/3 cat. So you get, I don't know, what is that? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power worth of cat over 3 creatures, all with lifelink.
That's fan.
Pumps your other cats. That's fan cat stick.
Leonin War Leader, very similar. It's a 4/4 that's 2 white, and when it attacks, you create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. There's a new companion, Kahira, the Orphan Guard, who wants.
I forgot about
but
that.
unfortunately, Kahira doesn't benefit dogs. Maybe it was a low oversight knowing that M21 was coming up.
Yeah, that's a pretty big miss. But I guess if they put dog on there, everyone would have known dogs are coming soon.
Yeah, and it would have been like, why is this?
They've done that in the
dog?
past, though. Put like cards on or words onto cards that everyone's like, what does that mean? And then 10 years later, it means something.
Yeah, it's true. I think the way that you win, though, is with cards that, like we said earlier, that changes all your cards into cats and dogs. So Shields of Velis Vel is a tribal instant for just a white. Creature target player controls gets +0/+1 and gain all creature types until end of turn.
So you're really just playing that to change them all.
I mean, even if
dogs.
you're going from like 8 cats and dogs to 16, that's pretty. That's a 16 bone. Bam.
True. If you have 16 creatures out, though, I feel like you're already.
Well, no, you have 8, but then they all become double.
Oh, okay.
With Renaissari, and then
gotcha.
that's 16. That's like half someone's life total. I mean, 8 is a lot too.
Volatile Claws seems more realistic because it actually pumps the creatures. So it's 2 and a red for an instant. Until end of turn, creatures you control get +2/+0 and gain all creature types. So you can sort of finish somebody off with the Renaissari after you've already whacked them for a bunch.
And, you're attacking with all these cats and dogs. If they block a bunch, you use Renaissari, they deal more damage, they get through.
You gain life.
Yeah.
This is going to be a totally fair deck, but a fun one.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of ways you can go with it. The more competitive build is definitely the Changeling one, and the more meme fun one is just put in all your favorite kitties and doggos.
Which will be mostly kitties because there's just
Mostly
not that
kitties,
many dogs.
yeah.
But there'll be some.
We'll talk about some of those cool dogs, cool cats and kittens in the regular set review.
All right, the next is a mono blue commander. It's Baron Tolarian Archmage. It's one.
It's prof.
Yep, it's one. It's prof in like 5 years.
Yeah.
It's 1 blue for a 2/2 legendary creature.
You think you grow up here that fast? Also, this guy is ancient.
Listen,
sorry, prof.
Nobody tell prof I said that. Okay. All right, sorry. 1 blue for a 2/2 legendary human wizard. When Baron enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature or planeswalker to its owner's hand. So this bounces another target creature or planeswalker. That could be your opponent's. Mm-hmm. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent was put into your hand from the battlefield this turn, draw a card. So if you choose to bounce your own thing, that'll be card draw. Also, you don't have to bounce the thing with Baron, so like bounce lands become pretty good and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
because you can just be bouncing your own stuff for other reasons, not with Baron. It's interesting. It's like a mana war with some value attached to it. I'm sure Marshall is going to love this card.
You can get planeswalkers with this too.
Yeah, the fact that it gets planeswalkers is pretty cool because your own planeswalker too that's low on loyalty, maybe bounce it up to your hand. So this seems,
I think
pretty good.
You get flash on this guy. You find a way to flicker it so it's constantly coming up and down and bouncing stuff, including your own stuff. There are a lot of cards actually in blue that are very good at bouncing things to your own hand because it says target permanent. This is weird because the first part is bounce a target creature or planeswalker, but the second one is just caring if it's any permanent. Blue doesn't need the help with card draw, but there are a lot of tricky things you can do. Trade Routes is this enchantment for 1 in the blue. You can just pay 1 to return target land you control to its owner's hand. And there are a lot of crazy lands out there that do things that you might want to bounce it and replay it and use it again, right?
Yep.
If that's your land drop return. And they'll draw you an extra card as well.
Tragic Lesson is 2 in blue for an instant. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you return a land you control to its owner's hand.
Just draw 3 cards.
So normally you would, that'd be a downside, but with Baron, it's kind of an upside.
Yeah, it's an instant though, so you would have to cast it during your main phase, which is
you don't really want to return lands to your hands that much because we know that one of the best ways to win games of Commander is to have the most lands in play, but you might do that once or twice in a game.
Yeah, and there's certain decks like Uyo, Silent Prophet, who is a 4 blue 4/4 with flying, and you can pay 2 to return 2 lands you control to its owner's hand, and you can fork something, copy target instant or sorcery, and you can choose new targets for the copy. So every time you do that with Baron out, you're just getting a little extra value when you draw a card. It's kind of cool.
I think cards that want to be in your hand are pretty good. Oh no, this one doesn't want to be in your hand. It's a Naban, Dean of Iteration. It's a 1 in a blue for a 2/1. If a wizard entering the battlefield under your control caused a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So this is actually like a Panharmonicon, but for wizards.
Yeah.
Which means Baron will bounce 2 things.
That's cool. And then you have Shrieking Drake, this is a competitive card, right? A lot of people use this. Yeah, which is just a blue for a Drake. And when it enters the battlefield, you return the creature you control to its owner's hand, including itself, if you want, right?
That's what you can do. Basically, that becomes 1 blue draw card, right, with Baron?
Yeah. Crystal Shard is a card we often talk about where you can bounce cards. And that's great because you can bounce other stuff as well.
Okay, now we're into the section that's cards that want to be in your hand. So there's Venser, Shaper Savant, which is 2 blue for a 2/2 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, return target spell or permanent to its owner's hand. Return target spell means something that's on the stack. You can counter uncounterable things with this because it's not technically countering it. It's just sending it back to their hands.
Right.
Also, it does work as a capsize where you can bounce their lands and stuff. And with Baron, you bounce it back to your hand, and that's where you want it. So oftentimes Venser gets into the situation where you're like, stop you from casting that, bounce it back to my hand, everybody knows you've got it, and they're like, crap. Yeah.
Venser is just a great card. Mystic Snake is one of those cards too. It's 1 green blue for a 2/2 flash snake. Very similar to Frilled Mystic. When they enter the battlefield, you may counter target spell. So if
you're in Simic and Baron's in there, you might play these cards. I mean, Yeah, Crystal Shard's in that same deck, right? Because there's a new one that's mono blue, though, and we did talk about it in the set review. That's Voracious Gear Shark here, which is 3 blue for a 5/4 shark with flash. When it enters the battlefield, counter target artifact or creature spell. So again, you can put people in that situation. Counter the thing, play Baron, bounce it back to my hand, sit there on my counter, and people are just like, this sucks.
You kind of hold the whole table hostage a little bit. Wizard Tribal is definitely something that we've seen a lot. It's a very popular form of tribal decks. In fact,
Krim played it on Game Nights.
Naru Meha is a master wizard. When Naru enters the battlefield, you copy target instant or sorcery spell, and other wizards you control get +1/+1, so that's definitely a card you want back in your hand as sort of a fork. Oh, this is our spoiler, or a preview card.
Yeah, Gadwick the Wizened is another card that is blue, and X for a 3/3. When it enters the battlefield, you draw X cards. And then also says whenever you cast a blue spell, tap target non-land permanent an opponent controls. But Gadwick's the type of card that you don't want to flicker it because X is 0 in that case.
Right.
But bouncing it back to your hand so you can cast it again for, it's just like X is equal to 3. Bounce it back to my hand. Play it later. X is equal to 5. It's the kind of card you want to bounce to your hand.
And Baron's drawing you cards. Void Mage Husher. This card is... We're going to get into the mean territory here in a second. We're kind of talking about the casual fun stuff.
Okay, well, let's talk about this. There's something I wanted to bring up in this episode, and we're going to organically get there. It doesn't have to do with M21. So we'll just have a little quick aside here.
Okay.
Void Mage Husher is 3 in a blue for a 2/2 with flash. When it enters the battlefield, you counter target activated ability. Mana abilities can't be targeted. And then whenever you cast a spell, you can return it to its owner's hand. So it'll bounce itself back to your hand, draw cards with Baron. Also, Baron can bounce it. Well, I guess Baron would never bounce it to your hand because you would be casting a spell, in which case you just return it if you want to.
Yeah, and so you get the Baron trigger, and you can just hold up countering activated abilities.
The worst is when you counter their fetch land ability.
Fetch land, yeah.
That's just the meanest.
It can be really mean, and you have a training grounds and not training grounds. Sorry, this is really good in like an Animar deck too, when you can reduce the mana cost of it and just do this over and over again. In general, I think you just want stuff that bounces stuff to your hands. This is actually a card. This next one, Kendirect Leviathan.
Oh yeah.
I want to see this being played more. It's 6 blue for a creature. When it enters the battlefield, return all other non-land permanents to their owner's hands. Sounds like a very expensive and awesome card that we all love in the format called Cyclonic Rift.
Yep.
But this also is Unearth for 6 in the blue. You can return it to the graveyard to the battlefield, and it has haste, and it does the same thing.
So, I mean, the problem is that it does your stuff, not just opponent's stuff.
True.
And then it doesn't have a 2-mana mode.
And it's not an instant.
And it's not an instant.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's way worse.
Right.
I played that in my old school Joyra deck. Because you suspend like 4 things, and then as they're all coming off, you have that one come off first, bounce everybody's stuff, then your other stuff comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kefnet the Mindful, a lot of people built decks around this when it came out. It has 3 in the blue, draw a card, then you may return a land you control to its owner's hand. And it cares about how big your hand size is, so BARRIW obviously is going to love that.
Mm-hmm.
There's
There's
a lot of stuff that does this, right? Returning stuff to your hand. We can name them off all day. Colony Gem is one that does it. Linessa Zephyr Mage, which is like trying to counter stuff. It has Grandeur, which like never applies in Magic. But I think the thing that gets bad about Baron is that there are a lot of mean cards that you can start playing that makes it oppressive.
I mean, it's bounce tribal, and just Capsize by itself is an oppressive card, and so you know that anything that's a whole deck that's gonna be built around like bouncing stuff, it's gonna find ways to like bounce everything everybody's got, including lands. Like,
yeah,
this is just what this deck is gonna do. So it's probably gonna be fairly powerful. Mm-hmm. But yeah, your playgroup will probably not like playing against it. There's probably like middle of the road builds you could build with it where it'll be fine though, because you're going to sometimes bounce your own stuff, sometimes bounce theirs. But you'll probably win by bouncing everybody's everything, right?
Yeah.
Most likely.
And like if you're doing the whole lands thing, you can be mean about it. There are a few cards here that we're going to name that I never want to see you play against me. Mana Breach, 2 in the blue, an enchantment. Whenever a player casts a spell, that player returns a land they control to its owner's hand.
Yep. That's
not nice. Overburden, 1 in the blue. Whenever a player puts a non-token creature on the battlefield, that player returns a land they control to its owner's hand. Planar Overlay, each player chooses a land they control of each basic land type, return those lands to their owner's hand. So you're just mono blue, you just bounce 1, right? Mm-hmm. So like, don't do that. Yeah. But you could.
If you're in that play group where anything goes, I think you can do this stuff. But yeah, in general, people will hate this.
Yeah.
Because they'll just never have lands on the battlefield.
Yeah.
These are classic stacks pieces, because they just stop the game, because nobody can really do much, because every time they do something, it sets them so far back that it's like, okay, 2 more turns to get back to where I was, do something, that sets me back 2 more turns.
Mm-hmm. If you want to do a Paradoxical Outcome deck, you could draw a ton of cards this way, and then sort of do like a Stormy type thing.
Yeah.
Eggs.
Yeah. Eggs, yay.
Eggs,
everybody loves eggs.
Oh, this one is fun. Thawing Glaciers. It's a land that, this is going to be really slow in mono blue, but you can pay 1 and tap it. There's the battlefield tap, by the way. And you can search your library for a basic card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library, and then you return Thawing Glaciers to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next cleanup step.
Yep.
So
it bounces itself back to hand and puts another land into play.
Yeah. And then we mentioned Capsize. Don't do that either.
You can, it's fine.
And then, hey, you know what? We love Force of Will. We love Pact of Negation. We love whatever that Fierce Guardianship, whatever that new one is.
Yeah, we love all that. We just love them.
Why not thwart them? With 2 blue for an instant, you can return 3 islands you control to their owner's hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost counter target spell. It's a free counter spell.
All right, this deck sounds horrible and awful, and I hope nobody builds it that plays against me.
Put it in something else. I think Baron would fit nicely into some 99 shells.
All right, let's talk about the next one. Oh, I think it's your turn.
Oh, good. It's a mono red dragon, so you know I'm all about it. The stats on this creature are pretty impressive, by the way. Mm-hmm. 2 in a red for a 5/4 legendary creature dragon with flying.
Something's got to give there. 3 mana 5/4 flyer.
Gadrick the Crown Scourge. Cannot attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. And
not the worst.
It's not the worst, right? Because at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn.
So oh, that's interesting. You can create the treasures that way, but it doesn't have to be treasures. You could just play other artifacts.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, often red decks are just going to have a bunch of artifacts anyway.
Yeah, and I would say in general too, if you're running just a red deck that is doing that, you're playing an artifact-based deck, having a random 3 mana 5/4 that can come out and do a lot of damage and occasionally get you more treasures seems pretty good.
I mean, if you play it on turn 3, it doesn't have haste. It wouldn't have attacked that turn anyway. So if on turn 4 you somehow get your 4th artifact, you're going to bash for at least 15 with that before anybody can really do anything about it, right?
Or decides to even do anything about it. Right? The first 5 is okay. The second 5 is ugh. And the third 5 is someone please kill this thing. It's murdering me. People that play Hellkite Tyrant, it's this ridiculous 4 red dragon that's a 6/5. When it deals combat damage to a player, you gain control of all artifacts that player controls. And then the fun text at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game.
Have you ever lost to that second part?
Never, ever have I ever. But
how many times have you seen Hellkite Tyrant even steal artifacts?
I've seen it take like 2. Like I saw someone with a bunch of treasures once, and it was like, oh, well, you have to use all your treasures. Yeah, but I mean, in a way, it kind of forced them to play their hand out a little bit like that.
I think in my entire Commander career, I've seen Hellkite Tyrant actually connect and steal artifacts maybe 3 times.
Wow.
It reads awesome, but it just never happens because people are like not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
They'll jump through every hoop imaginable to stop it.
I think the artifact route is kind of where you want to go with this, and especially the ones that you can just keep getting back to your hands and replaying and getting sort of the benefit of Gadrick and the treasure tokens.
Yeah, you want to get in the loops with the scrap trawlers and the mirror retrievers and the salvager of ruin. These are all little artifact creatures that when they die, they can get other artifacts back out of your graveyard, and you can get into those KCI, Clark Clan Ironworks.
Yeah, that's the hardest name
those
ever. Those
old combo, that kind of combo. So you could really get, because it says at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So you can probably, you don't have to go infinite, you can just go a lot and be like, Scrap Trawler, Mirror Retriever, Salvager of Ruin, do that whole rigmarole 15 times. Yeah, I ran out of mana or whatever eventually, but I get 15 treasure tokens. And now when it comes back to round to my turn, now I can do that 100 times because with that extra mana, I can just, keep spinning that wheel. So those are, sort of classic. They can be infinite too if you have the Clark Clan Ironworks and stuff. But you don't even have to. You can just cycle those cards in and out of the battlefield, a bunch.
Yeah. Seems fun to play in black-red or even more color decks because you can start playing creatures that just naturally return themselves to the battlefield, and then you can repeatedly sack them for that benefit of the extra treasures. Like Gravecrawler is a great example. Gutterbones, Reassembling Skeleton. I could see loops where you are able to use Reassembling Skeleton enough times in a single turn to make back all the mana that you've got, and just sort of like through sack outlets.
Yeah, exactly. And every time you've got Perforos or something, or Sir Conrad or something that's saying, every time you do that, you deal damage to everybody, and then you get it going, and then at the end you run out of mana, end of your turn, make a bunch of treasure, which gives you the mana to do that at the end of your turn, or
on and on
and so through one rotation on everybody's turn, I can is it just it's the beginning of your end step. So I guess you do it once and then the second time, and then you gotta wait till your end step again, but still this is gonna be powerful, but it doesn't seem broken.
Doesn't seem broken. I actually think this is about right.
Yeah.
For power level. It does a lot for red as well. In a way, this is red ramp, but it's conditional in the same way that our Mangara kind of had that too. In the 99, a Marchesa deck might like this a lot because you're already sending creatures to the graveyard all the time and they're coming back so that you can redo this again and you're going to get treasures as a result of it.
Yeah, anytime something dies, you're getting ramp out of that. There are some decks that'll just want that aspect of it, even if it's not like I'm getting 20 treasure tokens, just like 2 or 3 extra per turn. Really, that's the equivalent of playing like a pretty good mana rock, right?
Yeah. Lazolda the Blood Witch is a deck that I've always looked at but didn't know if I could build it. It's a 3/1 for 1 black and a red, and you can pay 2 to sacrifice a creature, and Lazolda does 2 damage to any target if the sacrificed creature was red, and you draw a card if the sacrificed creature was black. So you could do damage, draw a card with your black-red cards, and then you're also creating mana. Yeah, so it's just like I can see the synergies there. Nothing about this makes me go, oh no, the format's in trouble.
Right.
What I never want to say during these set reviews.
No, it's great. I think this will be at the fun power level. Like it'll be difficult to build this card, I think, at a 10, but you can build it at a 7.
I would put this in my Brea deck. Probably.
Oh, yeah.
I think this might be the best shell for Gadrick.
Garna the Blood Flame, 3 black red for a 3/3 legendary human warrior. But when Garna enters the battlefield, she has flash, by the way, you return to your hand all creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from anywhere this turn, and then other creatures you control have haste. It's kind of along the lines of Scrap Trawler and the rest too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of just throw it all in there, get it all back. And then Brudiclad.
Likes treasure tokens.
Yeah, and this is definitely the deck where you're going to get at least 4 artifacts on your side of the battlefield.
And you just want to accrue tokens to the point where you turn all the tokens into something really scary.
Yeah, and this gives you, Gadrick gives you the start. If it's like, hey, let's just make 1 treasure token. Cool, we're off to the races. We have an artifact on the battlefield that we can create token copies of.
All right.
So I like Gadrick.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't think it's like insane in any way, but there's some cool ways to go with it.
Yeah. And anytime someone prints a cool dragon, 3 mana, 5/4.
He's in.
I'm ready.
All right. Oh, I can't read this next one because this is...
Ooh, should we tell him?
Yeah.
All right, so on the next game nights, I will be playing this card as my commander. It's a mono green commander, and it's Jor-El Moonvoli Recluse. 1 in the green for a 1/2 legendary creature human druid. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, create a 2/2 green cat creature token. And he also has the activated ability of 4 green until end of turn. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand.
Green card draw matters. This is not something that we've seen before.
Yeah, definitely not. And you're making 2/2s. So
tokens, obviously, we have seen in green before, but
Yes.
just the way to get them is new.
yeah, so this is second card each turn. So if this is your turn, you draw a card for turn. And let's say you have anything on your board that lets you draw another card. That will trigger Jor-El. You make a cat token. It's a bit harder to do this on other players' turns, but it is something that you can do.
So I read something on Reddit.
Yeah.
They're like, not cantrips, cat trips.
Oh, because they create cats when you cantrip.
That's right.
That's actually really good. Nice. Dad jokes ahoy on this episode of the Command Zone.
So I like this card because it rewards you for doing the stuff that you want to do, which is draw cards, right? Yep. We always talk about every deck needs card draw and ramp. So any card that says, hey, I'm going to reward you for doing something you were just every deck's going to do, seems like it's going to be good. And then it also has the pump on the card.
Yeah.
So it seems pretty good.
Yeah, and it does every creature. Now, it doesn't give them trample, and it costs 6 mana, but hopefully you've drawn a lot of cards that you can sort of do this with. Greater Good is the first card that came to mind.
Yeah.
It's 2 green for an enchantment. You sack a creature, and you draw cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power, then discard 3 cards. So if you're sort of playing like a big creatures deck, you sack a creature with 4 power, draw 4 cards, and then discard 3. And if it has even more, draw 8 cards, whatever. Green can get there. Not
And
to
every
mention,
time you're making a cat. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can also pump them with Jor-El and then sacrifice them to Greater Good, and boom, you're just off to the races.
Sylvan Library, probably the best card in the deck.
Yeah.
It's 1 in a green for an enchantment. At the beginning of your draw step, you may draw 2 additional cards. If you do, choose 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn, and then for each of those cards, pay 4 life or put the card on top of your library. So they would template it differently now. It would say, look at the cards.
Yeah.
But it says draw the cards, and then you just put them back. So you can pay the 4 life if you want to, but you don't even have to. This just allows you to make a cat every single turn. And also, Sylvan Library is just one of the more powerful cards ever printed because extra card draw, card selection. It's just great.
Yeah.
Anything that makes Sylvan Library better. I mean,
I love looking at old cards and being like, why did they... Let's read the original text. It says 0 mana, draw 2 cards, then choose any 2 cards in your hand drawn this turn. For each of those cards, pay 4 life and put that card back on the top of your library. Use this ability only during your draw phase and only once each turn. So
it used to be an activated ability?
Yeah, but you can only use it during your draw phase and once each turn, which is just so weird. And so they made it just sort of into an actual enchantment. They didn't have an activated ability, but it kept
they didn't have the idea of triggers back then, so I think they didn't know how to template that.
Yeah, at the beginning of your draw phase or whatever. But this is great. You draw the 2 additional cards. One card I found when I was brewing for this deck that I think is really funny is Heartwood Storyteller. It's 1 green for a tree folk. That's a 2/3. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, each of that player's opponents may draw a card. So this is like group huggy in a bit, but if you're playing against a storm deck or whatever, and you're like, it's going to stop people from drawing cards. But if they do play a mana rock and then they ramp, you're drawing 2 cards off of Jor-El there, and then boom, you make some cats.
Yeah, because you can also draw 2 cards on your opponent's turns. To make the cats. So on your turn, you got to draw 1 more because of your draw step. But on the other player's turn, draw 2 somehow, which this could help you do.
Yeah.
And you make the cats on other turns. And that's probably what you want to get into somehow, some kind of loop where I'm able to make a cat on everybody's turn.
And this is also like green stacks in a weird way because you're going to stop some people from casting non-creature spells just because they don't want.
This should have been a white card, by the way. What the heck why is that in green?
Point. Should we, hey, Mark. Hey,
Mark.
Jimmy, what's up? I think this deck... We're losing it, guys.
Yeah.
This deck also makes Elvish Visionary just a great card. You know, normally you play this in elf decks, you play 1 in the green to get a 1/1 when it enters the battlefield, draw a card. But now this also has...
Makes a cat.
And the fact that Jor-El is a 2 mana commander is really cool because you can get this out early. No one really sees this as a major threat. It's a 1/2 that requires a 6 mana activated thing. You have to jump through some hoops, but that means you can play really cheap cards quickly, including the new Llanowar Visionary that does the same thing. Yeah.
It's a Llanowar Elves and an Elvish Visionary stapled together. It's 2 in a green for a 2/2 Elf Druid. Taps to add green mana and says when it enters the battlefield, draw a card.
This is like a new commander staple, I think.
It's really good.
It's great. And then this is my vote for the best card in the deck. It's Alhamret's Archive. basically doing a similar thing to Sylvan Library in terms of always triggering Jor-El. It's a 5-mana legendary artifact. If you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. Not that relevant. However, if you draw a card except the first one you draw in each of your draw steps, draw 2 cards instead. So that means on another player's turn, if I draw 1 card, I'm drawing 2 cards now.
Right, if you cat trip, then it's now draw 2 and make a cat.
Yep.
Yeah. I still think Sylvan just because it needs no help, but this card is ridiculous because you have so much card draw in the deck. So
Well, this with Sylvan, you're drawing 4 cards.
Oh yeah, this with Sylvan.
Holy moly. This actually ability has been replicated now in the set, and we'll talk about this in the set review, but Teferi's Ageless Insight basically does the same thing, but in mono blue.
Here's a good one that's really good in token decks if you don't know about it, and particularly good in this deck because of the card draw. It's called Slate of Ancestry. It's 4 mana for an artifact. You pay 4, tap the slate, you discard your hand, and then you draw a card for each creature you control. So this is usually when you use it, you're like 4, tap, discard 3 cards, draw 8.
Yeah. Or even if it's like discard 2, draw 4, right?
Even discard 2, draw 2 would be fine just because you can make a cat at least.
Yeah. And typically, I mean, the cost is a lot on this one, but if you're a token deck and you're going wide, this could be something that draws you a lot of cards. This is a green card that we will probably mention at least once every set review from now until the end of time.
Every set, I mean, we're going to mention a lot. I find myself playing this in most decks that have green.
Because it's an instant.
Yep.
It's crazy. Green really doesn't have access to instant speed card draw unless it's Return of the Wild Speaker. 4 in a green. For an instant, you choose 1. Draw cards equal to the greatest power among non-human creatures you control. Or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Both of those sides synergize so well with this commander. It's crazy.
It's so good. Yeah, you want to pump your creatures if you have a lot of tokens. If you don't, then you want to draw cards to make more tokens so that you can later pump them. Also, with Jor-El, the activated ability of 4 green, make all your creatures +X/+X, where X is the amount of cards in your hand, means that you also just want to have these moments where on your end step, you draw like 7 or 8 cards to get you, up into like 10, 12, 15 card range. And then I untap and go, okay, pump all my stuff. They're all 15, kill you all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Here's one of my underrated cards that we won't talk about on the underrated episode, but we'll talk about right now.
We can still talk about it. Not everybody will have listened to this one snippet from this, next 30 seconds from this episode.
If you do, though, you're special. It's Compost. 1 in the green for an enchantment. Whenever a black card is put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, you may draw a card. So Aristocrats decks all of a sudden are potentially your best friend.
Yeah. This card is really good. You're likely to have one black opponent, so.
Yeah. This is a card that I'm pretty high on. Josh, I know you're a little less on it, but it does have a cantrip on it, which makes it much better in this deck. It's a removal spell in mono green's Kenrith's Transformation. 1 in the green for an enchantment aura. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So on your turn as an enchantment, you can make a cat as well. And then enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a green elk creature with base power and toughness 3/3.
Yeah, it's removal with a cantrip on it in green. I like it. I like it quite a bit. I just don't. Yeah, I don't love it, but
It's definitely better in this deck than, otherwise you're just playing. Why not play Beast Within,
Yeah, I want instant speed removal most of the time. The fact that it cantrips, though, does make it like super efficient.
Yeah.
All right.
I like this one. It's Rowan. I've never seen this card before until I started brewing this deck, and I'm like, hey, maybe I'll play this more often.
2 green for an enchantment. Reveal the first card you draw each turn. Whenever you reveal a basic land card this way, draw a card. So, like, some percentage of the time it's going to draw you that extra card.
Yeah, it just gets it to you.
Especially you're in mono green, so if you could build this deck, honestly, with, like, 30 basic lands.
Yeah, you'll probably hit it pretty often.
That means a third of the time it's going to draw your card, yeah.
Explore, and these are just all, again, cat trips here. 1 in the green for a sorcery. You may play an additional land this turn, draw a card. You need to ramp out. You're going to be doing it already, and hopefully you're drawing so many cards that you have extra lands in your hand. So,
yep.
And then, of course, all of your regular token doublers work in this deck.
Parallel Lives, Doubling Season, also...
Blah, blah, blah.
Triumph of the Hordes, Crater Hoof, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Run them all.
Yeah, run all the normal token stuff. All right.
Cool. Card draw matters.
Yeah, it is cool because... anything that's just like, hey, put all the card draw stuff in. Oh, thank you. I will do that. I like that.
Easy. I was going to
because
anyway.
normally you have to stop drawing cards eventually and like make creatures and stuff. But Jor-El is like, no, just keep drawing cards. I'll make the creatures. That's fine.
Yeah. And this also might be a fit into the Rin and Seri deck because it is making some kitty cats. There you go.
That's a good point. All right, we have 5 more legendary creatures the second half of stuff, including the legendary creature I'm going to play on the next game nights. But before we get into all of that, we're going to take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsors.
So, Josh, we've sung the praises of MeUndies now multiple times on this show.
Well, we don't sing like we do at the beginning of the episode.
Oh, probably better that we don't.
Yeah, that's true. But we definitely stand by MeUndies because of the quality and consistency of their brand.
Right. Their core mission relates to something that we can all relate to as Magic players, too. Empowering self-expression. Now, MeUndies does it through clothing, and we do it through the way we play the game.
And since this is Pride Month, you get to show off way more colors than your standard Wooburg.
They've always got fun selections available, and this month they're also making $50,000 in donations to organizations that are dedicated to lifting the barriers to self-expression. The Women's Center for Creative Work, the It Gets Better Project, and Black Lives Matter.
This is so cool. So you can feel good wearing the clothing and be confident in your purchase as well. I'm personally on their MeUndies membership, so I get a new pair every single month straight to my door. You cannot beat that convenience.
Yeah, so what are you waiting for? Get started today or get some new fresh pairs. And if you're a first-time purchaser, 15% off and free shipping. Just head on over to meundies.com/command.
Listen, if you're on the fence, they have a 100% satisfaction guarantee, so it's risk-free. Try on some of this comfortable clothing. You won't regret it. meundies.com/command. Order your pair today.
All right, we are back. We are talking about the M21 new legendary creatures that you might have in the 99 or as your commander. We got 5 left here, and as you've been able to tell, a lot of these are mono-colored.
Yep.
So this next one, not so hot to sort of bury the lead on it, but it is an interesting effect, and we've seen it quite a lot in Magic's history.
It's a legendary creature that you look at it and you're like, it's hard to know what to do with it as far as building a deck around it. It's Karavek the Spiteful, 2 black, 4 mana for a 3/2 human warlock legendary, of course. Very simple. Says other creatures get -1/-1. So Karavek does not get -1/-1, but all the other creatures, including your own, do.
This is something that Black has done a bit in the past. There are, we'll list off a lot of cards here. We won't read all of them. Maybe the best one I found was Ascendant Evenkar. It's a legendary 4 black vampire noble. That's a 3/3 with flying, and it says other black creatures get +1/+1, and non-black creatures get -1/-1. So this with Karavek is -2/-2 across the board.
If they don't have black creatures, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not just your black creatures.
I mean, -2/-2, as we know, to all creatures is a very powerful effect.
That's -1 is like annoying and it will turn off some stuff. -2 is like debilitating to everyone else's board.
Yeah. We've seen this. You
With
guys
Alice
all
Norn
know
now.
Alice Norn, yeah. So Curse of Death's Hold, similar thing, but it's to one player, giving them -1/-1. And then we'll just go down the list here, because I don't think this is
Death's Head Buzzard. There's an enchantment that does this, right?
Doomwake Giant, right?
Oh, Doomwake Giant. That gives it until end of turn.
Right.
Yeah.
Dread of Night is
there
what
you
I'm
go.
thinking of. But this is just white creatures get -1/-1. But if you put all these cards in your deck, you could just kind of be like never let anyone cast creatures ever type deck, which is maybe interesting. Fester Creep is an activated ability to give all other creatures -1/-1. Golgari Charm does it. Ethereal Absolution does it. Heartless Summoning does it. I actually like this one a lot.
Yeah, this one is a different type of card. So Heartless Summoning is 1 black for an enchantment. Creature spells you cost 2 less to cast. And then creatures you control get -1/-1. So it's kind of like, hey, I'll give you a mana reduction on your creatures, but they're all going to be a little bit weaker. I don't know if this is good in Karavek because you're already making your creatures -1/-1 also. So I think this would want to go in a deck where there's no other things like messing with the power and toughness of your own creatures. But it is a similar effect.
Unless you have a way to buff them up as well. Marsh Casualties, it's a sorcery that does it. Make Obsolete does it at instant speed. Mephitic Vapors does it at sorcery speed.
Night of Soul's Betrayal.
There
That's
it
the
is.
one
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
thinking
yeah.
of, which is just 2 black, legendary enchantment. All creatures get -1/-1. Boom.
Yay.
That's what Karavek is. It's Night of Soul's Betrayal on a stick.
Yeah.
But all we're doing here is mentioning a bunch of cards that do what Karavek does. I don't know if that's a deck.
I don't think so either.
So the question is like, what does Karavek either go into, or what decks do you build around? Yeah, it definitely goes in the deck that has, or that deck built around Vadi Ildal, which is 2 black-green for a 3/3 legendary creature human warrior, but you can tap Vadi, and until end of turn, target creature has base power 1 or base toughness 1. You would choose toughness, so that makes Vadi just kill things.
Okay, that's kind of cool. Silumgar, the Drifting Death. Whenever a dragon you control attacks, a creature's defending player controls gets -1/-1 till end of turn. Arvad the Cursed, if you're building a Legendary Creatures Matters deck, then this is great because other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2, and that means everyone else is getting that minus reduction, so your creature's a little bigger.
Hapatra would be really good because whenever Hapatra deals combat damage to a player, you may put a -1 counter on target creature. So if they're already weakened, now you're killing 2/2s with Hapatra.
You're killing a lot of things that
Although
way.
your snakes will just die. So.
Right.
Griswold, I think, is actually pretty good. Maybe this is the natural home for Karavek. So Griswold is 1 black-green for a 3/3 with trample. At the beginning of your end step, each player creates a 1/1 green plant creature token. And then it says, whenever a creature token dies, put a 1/1 counter on Griswold. So at the end of your turn, you'd give everybody a plant, but they'd all die. So then Griswold would just get 4+1/+1 counters, and that would just happen every turn.
Yeah. This curves nicely from turn 3 into turn 4 for Karavek. If you manage to play a white-black deck and you drop Humility out, nothing lives.
Wait, it doesn't happen.
Oh, you're right.
Because Karavek turns into a 1/1 with no abilities. Yeah.
All right, I just named a non-bow, so don't do that. You might want to, but don't do that.
That's a classic Humility where you're like, this, no, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Every time Humility's out, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Nope, that doesn't work.
Nope. I'm going to cast this again.
Nope, nothing will save you.
Nothing saves you.
All right, Karavek's a real head-scratcher. I would like to know from the audience out there how you would build a deck around Karavek. I think it just generally you build a deck that doesn't have a lot of creatures because it's just saying like, hey, I'm going to make all creatures weaker. Yeah. And then I'm going to play a bunch of cards that aren't creatures, so they're not affected by that. I think that's probably what you do.
It's kind of cool. It kind of locks some players out, especially token decks.
Oh, boy.
I mean, this could be like the ace in the hole against certain decks. So I like it in that regard, but I wouldn't want to build around it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, next up, we have one of the few multicolored cards in the Legendary Creatures, and it's NIAMBI, Esteemed Speaker. That's kind of like us. We're just talking all the time.
I don't know if we're esteemed, but we're speakers.
White and a blue for a legendary creature, human cleric, 2/1 with flash. When NIAMBI enters the battlefield, you may return another target creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, gain life equal to that creature's converted mana cost. And then you can pay a white and a blue and tap NIAMBI to discard a legendary card and draw 2 cards. So another Legendary Matters deck here. This Legendary Matters things has kind of been like a recurring theme now, I think, in a lot of
they did
sets.
Historic Mattered, and then they're like, we don't want to talk about Historic all the time, so let's just shift it over to Legendary.
Right. They have Kethis that I played on game nights. So.
Yeah. And this is like another bouncy Blink commander, right?
Yeah, but in white and blue, and kind of has like a Legendary Matters theme to it.
This bounces only things you control, so it's not like Baron in that regard, but it's going to want similar cards, I think.
Yeah, so bounce the things that matter. Deadeye Navigator, just do it forever.
Yeah. So you're going to want things to bounce, though.
Yeah, I like this one quite a bit. Core Cartographer, similar to Weathered Wayfarer type cards.
Knight of the White Orchid.
Yeah, when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a plains card, put it onto your battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. Obviously, this is the kind of thing that you want to be flickering if you can do a lot of, especially in white and blue. That doesn't really have that many great ramp options, which is kind of cool.
Yeah. Charming Prince. When it enters the battlefield, you can choose one of these options, scry 2, or gain 3 life, or exile another target creature you own, return to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of the next end step. So it either is the flicker target, or it flickers things.
Void Mage Husher is making another appearance here as a card you want to flicker. Yorion, Sky Nomad is another card that works this way. I mean, we can serve gold down this route.
It's all the normal flicker cards. I mean, Brago, blah, 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 Soul Herder. Yeah. Yes, flicker your stuff is going to be good. You're obviously going to put in the cards that want to be flickered. It's interesting because NIAMBI bounces.
Right.
But usually cards that want to be bounced, they're even better when they're flickered because you don't have to recast them.
Yeah. So it's like it's this weird in between here, and it feels. We'll talk about this in the second, but it feels very similar to another card we talked about already.
Well, yeah. I mean, you want to...
Yeah, sure. Well, okay, so if you want to go another direction with this deck, legendary cards matter. Urza's Ruinous Blast, exiling all non-legendary, non-land permanents. Wrath Capuchin, Ship's Mage, cares about historic spells. And then, let me know if you've heard these names before. Venturous Shaper Savant, Voracious Great Shark, Narumeha, Gadwick the Wizened.
These are all cards, legendary, a lot of them too, that want to be in your hand, so they want to be bounced. It's a lot of the same stuff for Baron, right?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be bouncing stuff to your own hand. And in this case, you can only bounce your own stuff. So it's just going to be a lot of the same cards, which is interesting.
Why are they so similar?
I'm very curious why the same set has 2 commanders that are pretty similar and also share a color, right? So Baron is mono blue and NIAMBI's blue-white. But a lot of the cards in those decks feel like they're going to overlap. And they also do similar things, right? They have a ability that bounces things. And then they have ability that draws cards, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, it's just weird to me. They put these 2 cards in the same set. Maybe it's for standard or something else. It just feels like usually legendary creatures don't step on each other's toes so hard. But man, Baron and Niambi, their toes are hurting.
Chill out, prof. Chill out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm interested in Niambi a very small amount.
It's just not doing a lot that we haven't seen done before and better, right? Because Blink is just better with Brago.
Yeah.
So you'd have to like lean into the bounce, but I don't know. You can only I think I'd rather play Baron because at least you can bounce your opponent's things.
Maybe this is what I think white and blue is kind of in an identity crisis because I played
because white sucks.
Josh, don't say it so loudly.
That's a crisis. Like, I don't know my identity. Was it this? No, that sucks. Was it that? No, that sucks.
I remember building Lavinia for Azorius Renegade for game nights and looking through all the different options and being like, well, I can't go the bounce route because Lavinia doesn't care about that. And if I go the regular white-blue route, it's just stacks.
Yeah.
So there aren't that many options here. I'm glad that Niambi exists because it's kind of like Legendary Matters, at least to a certain degree. So that's a different direction that white can go in.
The problem with Legendary Matters is it doesn't feel like blue and white have enough legendary stuff that's really awesome that you want to do that. There's a few, but I don't know.
There's Temet as well. That's like another white-blue option, but it just doesn't feel like white-blue has a lot of flexibility here.
Doesn't have an identity like you
and
said.
Especially as it's like stepping on each other's toes here, it doesn't feel like it's really setting itself apart. I mean, these are all minor complaints.
I think Niambi could be a fine deck, but I have trouble imagining that it's just gonna do like a bad impression of what Brago does.
Well,
or
I just
something
hate
like
that you have to tap it to you. Yeah. Already discarding a card to draw 2 cards, right? You could just play Divination.
It's 3 mana, draw 1 card basically. Because you're discarding a legendary and drawing 2 cards.
Yeah.
So it's not even as good as Divination.
Unless there's a ton
I guess it is as good as Divination because you waste a card on Divination, but you're only up 1 card in
This is instant speed. I mean, there's a lot of arguments to be made here, but I think like it seems like they balanced it a little too aggressively to make it really cool. But at the same time, it is exploring a new option. So, I can't hate on it forever.
I can't hate on it I can.
Okay. All right. Let's hate on it forever.
All right. The next one is another multicolored legendary. It's the last multicolored legendary that the set has. It's Rada, Heart of Keld.
Woo!
1 red-green for a legendary elf warrior. It's a 3/3. It says, as long as it's your turn, Rada has first strike. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may play lands from the top of your library.
Hey, okay.
Kind of Courser of Crufixie. Doesn't actually allow you to play extra lands, but if that's a land on top of your deck and you play it instead of a land out of your hand, that's the same as drawing that card and then playing it. So that's some amount of card draw. And then it has an activated ability. You can pay 4 red-green, and Rada gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of lands you control. It's Rada that gets that buff. It's not all of your creatures. This is a little bit confusing only because Jorel has a 6 mana ability that pumps all your creatures. This one just pumps Rada. Doesn't give trample or anything. She will have first strike if it's your turn.
I think you're playing this card much more for that second line of text than either the first or the bottom one. First strike on the 3/3, sure, make it huge, attack, hard to block. Chump it. However, playing lands off the top of your library, red and green loves playing lands. You got Mina and Den that lets you play more.
I was going to say, can you just go to edhrex.com, type in Mina and Den, take that deck list, and just play it with Rada? It's going to be basically the same, right? It's a lands matter red-green deck. Yeah. Maybe there'll be a few differences, but it feels like it'll be mostly the same.
I mean, here are the common hitters. Avenger of Zendikar, your Raymond Excavator, your Crucible of World type effects.
All in Mina and Den.
Wayward Sawtooth.
Play extra lands, Mina Den.
Uzuza just got reprinted. Hell yeah.
Also in the Mina and Den deck.
Dryad of the Elysian Grove.
Yep.
Mina and Den.
Nesting Dragon, that's also in the Mina and Den deck.
Yep. Living Twister, also in the Mina and Den deck. Bear Umbra, also in the Mina and Den deck. Exploration, Underworld Breach.
There are so many cards now in green specifically that allow you to play extra lands.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a whole archetype now. Just kind of like how Wheels is now like just like that's a wheel deck. And the most, like as soon as you say that, like 65% of the deck is just known. Right? And that's kind of what Rada feels like. It's like, it's a lands deck. 65% of that deck is just known.
I think it's easy to build this deck, though, and make it quickly, good. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it's cool to bust it out. Maybe you want to make a Voltron deck, and this is a great candidate for that, which is kind of cool.
It feels like everybody's got a lands deck in their arsenal now. Like, because that's just one of the archetypes. And everyone's got that one wheel deck, and everybody's got their one, or maybe more than one, but one lands deck. Because putting lands into play is just inherently powerful because you get to turn 12 and you can do 20 mana worth of stuff, and that's just always going to be good.
So Radha also fits great into these commanders, and as a result, same with me and Den, by the way, Lord Windgrace, Corvold, Fey-Cursed King, the Paco and Halden deck, Omnath, Locus of Rage, or Omnath, Locus of the Royal, any kind of like landfall type decks, Sakama, Primal Calamity.
Yep.
Nothing too exciting here. Again, this is a core set, right? We're not looking for things to be broken. We're not looking for something to change the entire landscape of what's happening.
And by the way, we just had C20 and Ikoria come out at the exact same time. We've got a lot of new toys to play with. I'm not complaining that like these are not like
build-arounds.
They're not insanely new stuff that we never would have thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just, I think Radha's just kind of a worse version of a lot of these landfall decks. It's definitely, not as good as some of the other. Definitely not Gitrog good, right?
Yeah,
So,
well,
which is good.
we run into this problem a lot, though, when we talk about just the legendary creatures, because we want to look at it from the scope of, are they good commanders?
Yeah.
That's what's interesting to us. But a lot of times, like, they're better off as utility players and just happen to be legendary as well. So.
Yeah, this just goes in those decks rather than probably isn't the best as the lead singer.
The lead singer, yeah.
This next one's interesting, and I think opened a few new doors. And this is the commander I'm going to play in the next game nights. And
Quick, everyone guess the color.
Yeah, it's mono red.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever played a mono red deck on game nights. I've done some Rakdos, I've dabbled a little with red, but this is the first time I'm going like, nope, I'm red only.
And I play the mono green deck, which I've never done, but you have. I play mono red decks, but you haven't. So we switch places. I'm Jimmy Lee Kwai, and you were Josh Wong.
All right. It's Subira Tulzidi Caravaner. So 2 in a red for a 2/3 legendary creature, human shaman, has haste. 2 activated abilities. The first one is pay 1. Another target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So it makes small things unblockable.
Cool.
And you can do that as much as you have the 1 mana, because it doesn't tap or anything. The next ability is 1 in a red, tap Subira. So you can only do this once per turn unless you can untap her. And then discard your hand. That's part of the cost. Until end of turn, whenever a creature you control with power 2 or less deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Yeah, so this is interesting. Card draw in red. It's what's the Simic guy that allows you to draw cards? Every player to draw cards when you deal combat damage.
Edric.
Spymaster of Trest.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of like Edric. It only lets you draw cards. It's only you, but it's only for the creatures that deal combat damage that are power 2 or less. But it is card draw in mono red.
And you could draw a lot with this, right?
Yeah, if you had 7 creatures that were power 2 or less and they all got through, you're going to draw 7 cards. So
this is good in Goblin decks, for sure.
Yeah, and it gives you a play pattern, right? Play low CMC stuff, dump your hand out so that the discard your hand thing is not much to you because you don't have many cards in hand. And all the cards you've dumped on the table are little creatures, so they kind of bust through, and if 4 or 5 of them get through, you're just paying 2 and drawing 4 or 5. Note that you have to tap her to do this ability, so unless you give her vigilance or something, she's not going to be dealing the combat damage.
Right. But you can make herself unblockable, which is kind of cool.
No, she can't make herself unblockable.
Oh, another target creature. My bad.
You can draw a card off her if you somehow manage to tap her for the tap ability and then untap her and attack.
You cast an Act of Treason on her post-combat. No, pre-combat.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, I don't know.
I don't think that's the thing you try and do with the deck. But you're going for 2 power or less creatures in red. There are a lot of really cool ones, and I one of the reasons I chose this deck is just the ability to play with some of them. So like this first one is just a card that I like and wanted to play with.
Yeah, it's Grenzo, Havoc Razor, red, legendary 2/2 Goblin Rogue. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, choose one. You can goad target creature that player controls, so that creature has to attack next turn and not you. And then you can also choose to exile the top card of that player's library until end of turn. You may cast that card, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell.
So one of the best cards in the whole deck, because Subira makes it unblockable, so it's definitely getting through. And then goading their stuff is good because that makes it harder to block you because they have to attack with stuff, which means you can sort of get into these loops where maybe you can just get in over and over and make them attack somebody else. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This next one's another one of the best cards in the deck. I think it's Prophetic Flame Speaker. It's 1 red for a 1/3 human shaman, but it has double strike and trample. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you exile the top card of your library and you may play it this turn.
Oh.
But it has double strike.
So it's going to do it twice and you make it unblockable.
Right. And also, if you activate Subira's ability, what would happen is the tap ability. So you discard your hand and then it would deal 1 damage for first strike damage. You would exile the top card of your library, then draw a card for Subira, and then it'll deal regular damage, exile the top card of your library, draw a card from Subira. So that becomes sort of 4 cards that it draws from getting through, and you have to, obviously activate Subira, but you can make it unblockable because it's a 1/3. So
yeah, I do like what you said too. Oftentimes in mono red decks, you find that you have to dump out your hand.
Yeah.
And if you can't refill it with a wheel or whatever, you're in rough shape. So Subira, that does seem pretty interesting there. Goblin Assault is definitely a playable card in this deck. 2 in red for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token with haste, and they attack each combat with as if able. So even if you're not drawing cards off of them, you're still creating a lot of pressure on the board with cards like that, right?
Yeah, and you could choose to make it unblockable or just let it sort of go in there and chump attack, and you don't really care that much because next turn maybe you do make it unblockable and activate Subira.
Yeah, I like this next one a lot, actually, because I feel like this is something, given the cards we've just talked about, you will be able to make maximum advantage of, or take maximum advantage of.
It's Tilonali's Summoner. It's 1 in a red for a human shaman 1/1. Has Ascend, so if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. When it attacks, you may pay X and red. If you do, you create X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens that are tapped and attacking.
Whoa.
And then at the beginning of the next end step, you exile those tokens unless you have the City's Blessing. And the thing is with Tilonali's Summoner, you usually do like X is equal to 5 or more, in which case that gets you up to City's Blessing.
Right.
So you almost always keep the tokens. And again, they come in tapped and attacking. A lot of times you don't care if those die. You just make Tilonali's Summoner unblockable, so you can use that every turn. And then you activate Subira and say, 3 of them are going to get through, 3 of them are going to block and die. Tilonali's Summoner gets through, so maybe I draw 4 or 5 cards. That Tilonali's Summoner with Subira is an engine all by itself.
Yeah, that's a 2-card mono red card draw. Let's get it.
Yep.
You rarely see that amount of synergy for card draw in red, especially just straight to hand, which is really important. A lot of times it's exile the top card, play it until end of turn, but this is into your hand, so that's pretty cool.
Now, the problem with this whole thing is, like, you're not doing a lot of damage. Like, you're like, I hit you for, I hit you with a 2/2 and 2 1/1s. And you're like,
down.
Okay, take 4. Yeah, it was cute and everything, and yeah, you drew a couple of cards, but, like, it's not killing anyone. So I think you also need to be able to make this stuff do damage, but you don't want to increase the power of the stuff, because if you do, you won't draw cards with Subira. So you don't want to play a bunch of cards that say all your creatures get +2/+0, because now, well, that turns off half of my commander's text.
Yeah, you don't want Trumpet Blast in this deck, but you do play Hellrider, which is 2 red for a 3/3 with haste, and whenever a creature you control attacks, Hellrider deals 1 damage to defending player. Whoa!
So it kind of gives +1/+0 to all your creatures, even better because it's on attack, so they can't even block it.
And Hellrider doesn't have to attack either, which is cool.
Yeah, but it also doesn't push them above 2 power, so that you can still draw cards. Torbrand, same thing.
Yep.
Makes them all deal 2 more, basically.
That's actually big game.
Yeah.
And now, because it's 2 or less, right? So it could be up to 4 damage per creature attacking. Jeez.
Raid Bombardment is 2 in a red for an enchantment. When a creature you control with power 2 or less attacks, Raid Bombardment deals 1 damage to the player or planeswalker that the creature is attacking.
That's a lot. Berserker's Onslaught is a 5 mana enchantment to give all your attacking creatures double strike. That's a lot. And that's also, again, triggering Subara twice, huh?
Yeah, so if you were even attacking with only 3 creatures, but they all have double strike, you'll draw 6 cards off of that. Braid of Fire, really good in this deck, because one of the things I found is that you don't have enough mana to give everything unblockable and still play cards. Like, it sounds cheap. Pay 1 mana, make something unblockable.
But you only have 5 mana to work with.
When they're all 2/2s and 1/1s, you're like, I want to do 3 of them, but now I only have 3 mana left this turn. So Braid of Fire is 1 in red for an enchantment, cumulative upkeep. Add a red to your mana pool, which means the first turn it's there on your upkeep, you add a red. The second turn is 2 red. The third turn is 3 red.
Yeah.
But it's in your upkeep, so you can only use it for stuff that you can do at instant speed. However, Subira just says, okay, during my upkeep, I get 3 red mana. I'll make that, and that unblockable.
Yeah, this is actually really good.
Yeah, so it just... And you can even activate Subira with it if your hand is small or whatever before you draw your card.
True. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Right? You have 0 cards in hand, discard nothing, draw a card for turn, and then boom, you're trying to attack more later in that turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Disrupt Decorum is, again, goading everyone to let yourself be able to get in for damage. I think that's really important too. And, you have chump blockers, so if everyone knows they want to go after you, you can at least stop some of it and then go after them. Disrupt Decorum, by the way, 2 red sorcery, goad all creatures you don't control.
Yeah, just opens the gates for everybody so you have free attacks, and also makes them deal damage to each other, so maybe you can finish some people off.
Yeah. Sorry, I misspoke. They can't attack you when you goad them. So.
Right.
make them hit each other.
Unless
Red
it's
Skull.
1v1. Disrupticorn becomes kind of bad at 1v1. Although
Kind of bad.
it's not the worst because sometimes you do make them attack when they wouldn't want to.
Right.
But it's still not great, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Subaru, pretty cool, I think. I think can be a cool deck. I don't think it's like insanely powerful, but at least you're playing a bunch of cards that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. I did think about making my deck Goblin Tribal because it does seem to have a lot of Goblin synergies, but I figured there's a lot of Goblin decks out there. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I also wanted to leave that to you someday.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
Maybe Subiria and I will trek
No,
along.
I meant with an actual Goblin.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah,
Because I was
I
going to say, maybe what's in her caravan is just a bunch of goblins.
Yeah, we don't know. That's true.
Yeah, those elephants would not be happy in the background. All right, let's talk about our final legendary creature today. This one has a lot of people buzzing. Mm-hmm. It's Vito, Thorn of the Dusk Rose, 2 in the black for a 1/3. It's a legendary creature, Vampire Cleric. And it says, whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. As well as 3 black creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. So that 3 black is interesting. But now this is another card I like because the whole thing is there. Whenever you gain life, someone loses that much life, and you can give your creatures lifelink. So then when you gain that life, someone loses that much life.
Right. You have the ability to gain life on the card, and it also it weaponizes the life gain on the card.
But this is cool. This is half of the Sanguine Exquisite combo.
Yeah. The first card that every single person thinks of when they see Vito is Exquisite Blood, right? It's 4 and a black for an enchantment. Whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. So with Vito, that's almost an instant win. You do have to deal damage somehow, but you deal damage, you gain that much life. That makes Vito deal damage, which makes you gain the life, which makes Vito deal damage, which makes you gain the life, and then you just win.
Lose life, and then exclusively. So it's just like, boom, you instantly take someone from 40 to 0 with that.
Yeah, so that's the first thing everybody thought of, and it's in black, which is the best color for tutors. So finding the combo seems like it would be very easy. So getting Vito out, and Vito's also 3 mana.
Yeah.
So it's like get Vito out, and then tutor, or maybe you already tutored before you got Vito out, and then next turn you do it, and then you attack with Vito, and that'll get the damage going if you can hit somebody.
Or you have a Child of Night, just 2 on lifelink, right? You play before Vito. The 3 mana on Vito is cool here because Defiant Bloodlord has the exact same text of whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life, but it costs 7 mana.
Yep.
So it's a much cheaper version of doing it. This is, I think, potentially an instant win. It's Blood Tribute.
Well, it's an instant kill on one opponent,
Instant kill on one opponent, yeah. It's a sorcery with a kicker cost of tap an untapped vampire you control. Vito's a vampire. Target opponent loses half their life, rounded up. If the spell was kicked, you gain life equal to the life lost this way. So lose half the life, you gain that life, they lose the other half.
Yeah. Kaput.
And you get to kick it, which is cool with Vito himself.
Yep. Gray Merchant is a card that loves Vito. It's... Everybody knows what it does, right? 3 black for a 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is your devotion to black.
Yeah, so you're going to double lose the life on them. They're going to lose 10 life because your devotion.
Oh, you don't gain X life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So 3 times X generally.
Yeah.
And which is
good old Gary.
Double X damage. Oh, it's brutal.
Yeah. Now maybe Kakusho, the Evening Star, because of the new dies trigger, maybe this is a great card to put in the deck or vice versa. When Kakusho dies, each opponent loses 5 life. You gain life equal to the life lost this way.
And then
they lose. One person loses a lot, yeah. Dread Presence. Whenever a swamp enters the battlefield under your control, choose one. You draw a card and you lose 1 life, or deals 2 damage to any target and you gain 2 life. So that's 4
damage to any target. I mean, if it's a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah.
Well,
that's cool because you can actually hit something for 2, you gain the 2 life, and then you drain someone for 2. So the Aristocrats
Or just every time you play a land, it deals 4 damage to one of your opponents. It's just kind of brutal too, right?
Right.
Yeah. Tendrils of Agony, probably playable in this deck. It's 2 black for a sorcery. Target player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life, but it has Storm, so you copy it for each spell cast before it this turn, and then you may choose new targets for the copy. So even if you just cast like 3 spells and then this, it might do 24 damage to somebody out of it nowhere. Yeah.
Okay, cards that commanders that you might want to put Vito in. Alenda the Dusk Rose, everybody. She's back. Not like she was gone in the first place. It's a 1/1 with lifelink that's 2 a white and a black. Whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Alenda. And when Alenda dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink.
Ta-da!
X is Alenda's power.
Yep. Seems good.
Lose a lot of life, keep it going.
Kirik, Son of Yawgmoth. This is 4 and then 3 Phyrexian black mana, so 7 mana. Or 4 mana and 6 life for a legendary creature horror minion 2/2 with lifelink. but you can pay
for each black.
Black in a cost. You may pay 2 life rather than pay that cost. Whenever you cast a black spell, you put a 1/1 counter on Keurig. So the fact that you're going to gain so much life in the Veto deck or the Keurig deck kind of works in your favor because that's going to turn into damage. Any deck that's already gaining a lot of life, Veto probably wants to go in there.
So Ayara, First of Locthwain, Sir Conrad the Grim, cards we talk about quite a bit now in the show. Yep. And then our favorite white-black gain a lot of life or cares about
episode
life.
100.
Yes, Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim. Let's go back and tell him to put Veto in the deck. And Karlov, Uncle Carl of the Ghost Council. Basically, I mean, it makes sense. There is a new card from M21, though, I want to mention, which is Peer into the Abyss.
That is a frightening art.
It might be one of the most frightening arts, I think.
We do another Halloween frightening art episode. Don't forget about this card, yeah.
4 black for a sorcery. Target player draws cards equal to half the number of cards in their library and loses half their life. Round up each time. So this is, again, if you find ways to take someone down, you can just kill someone with this if they're at low enough. I mean, like, they're going to lose.
Or you might be at enough life total that you're just like, I'll draw half my deck.
Yeah, I'll draw half my deck. Yeah.
I've gained enough life this turn, or this game.
All right, a quick discussion here. What do we think about the overall power level here of these cards? I think I'm pleased. I don't want cards that break the format every time. Yep. I want some new options to be available. And there's a couple of cards here where I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I think overall this is fine, and we've had such an influx of commanders and stuff, and we've got so more coming down the pipe later this year.
Commander Legends is going to be a set review nightmare.
Yeah, oh my, 71 new Legends. I mean, a couple of those are Planeswalkers, but still, how are we? We're going to have to split that up into like 3 episodes.
Colors, maybe? Let us know if you have a better idea. Yeah. We don't even know what the cards are, so.
Yeah. I'm fine with this. I don't think there's anything like groundbreaking or that's like extremely awesome, but at the same time, like I said, we've had enough stuff and we're going to have enough stuff in the future that I'm kind of fine with a entry level commanders type of stuff. And there's some stuff here that I think will be good. Rada, Jarrell, Mangara is pretty cool, actually.
Just finally having something that does that.
As a card that's in white that you are going to put in a lot of decks. Maybe it's not the commander. Maybe it doesn't like say, hey, mono white's viable all of a sudden all by itself, but it's a good white card.
Yeah.
Baron is kind of mean. Veto is probably the most powerful. We're going to talk about this. Actually, let's go on to the. Well, I mean, I don't want to skip your opinion here. You did say that you were happy with this. Do you want to explain it a little bit more?
Yeah.
I think the consensus among the two of us is these are a little bit lower powered, but we're okay with it.
Yeah, entry level is the best way to describe it. You want to not intimidate players because the core set is a great time for a lot of new players to come into the game, and that's sort of how they market it. That's how they want it to be. It's a core set. It harkens back to the basics. No crazy mechanics like mutate. So like you said, entry level, these cards all make sense. Nothing on it makes you scratch your head and wonder what is happening here.
Right.
So I think like new players, I could see myself as a new player seeing NIAMBI and being like, that's super cool. I want to build that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true, because we're jaded, because we've just seen Blink decks for the last 5 years. But if you just started playing Magic in the last year, you haven't, Brago and Rune are kind of a little bit older, and you maybe haven't seen that. So to you, that's like, sweet, Blinky Legendary Matters deck. So yeah, that could be exciting.
Yippee.
I don't want to take the wind out of anybody's sails. Okay, let's talk about our 2 awards that we always hand out. There's the most powerful new commander and our favorite overall new commander. Let's do most powerful first.
Okay.
I have mine.
Yeah, I think this makes sense.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Veto.
Yeah.
Just it's an enchantment that is already a part of a 2-card infinite win the game on the spot combo type thing. Right?
And, Grim Tutor just got reprinted in this set.
Right.
Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor, a million tutors. You can find the other half of the combo pretty easy. So, and Veto is a 3 CMC commander. So pulling off that combo is not going to be difficult. I think what will happen to a lot of people, they'll put that combo in their deck. They'll pull it off a couple times, realize that's actually not that fun, then take it out. Yeah. And then we're going to start playing against Veto decks where they sit down, shuffle up their deck, put Veto out, and go, I don't have Exquisite Blood in the deck.
And you have to go, I don't believe you, unless you truly know that they don't.
I would believe them if they said specifically, I don't have Exquisite Blood in this deck.
Yeah.
And then it might be like, fine. Otherwise, they're going to not say that, and you're going to be like, every time Veto's about to come out, I'm going to counter it or kill it immediately. Because you have to.
Yeah.
I think Baron's probably second. What do you think?
I was going to put Subira up there just because red hasn't had that kind of like amount of card draw outside of like a wheel effect. And I'm more partial to red as well. Right. Anytime it says draw a card.
It's a lot of hoops to jump through though to get that working.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's always been a lot.
I think it's fun. I don't think it's super powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite overall new commander.
This is a tougher one.
Don't forget Rin and Seri are also in the mix.
Oh.
Dogcat.
Sold. Rin and Siri. I forgot because we don't have the buy box promo in front of us here.
I'm going to give the nod to MANGARA. It's the beginning, I believe. I don't know what's coming up, but I hope that we continue down this line. What Mark said was very heartening. I'm very excited to see what happens in the future.
So MANGARA is just getting the nod for stuff that might happen in the future?
Well, it's getting the nod for being like the first person to, step out onto the tracks and like try and swim the English Channel. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it's like one of those. It's the guy that got him in the barrel and went over Niagara Falls.
Okay.
That's MANGARA.
Wow.
So keep it up, White.
MANGARA, yeah, okay, all right, sure.
It's better than the other version that just exiled itself, right? The original MANGARA.
Yeah. No, because that card is sweet when you blink it. But
yeah, totally.
But I think this is for White does a lot more.
Yeah.
All right, to the listeners, what is your favorite new legendary creature that can be your commander from M21? Are there any cool interactions or combos you see that we missed? We'd love to hear from you. Please tweet at us or put it in the comments.
Yeah. And hey, look, it may not be your commander, but it may be in the 99. So make sure you head on over to cardkingdom.com/commandzone. If you're going to want to build any of these, put them into your deck. I really do think Subira could be really awesome in a lot of different Goblin decks. So I could see, Subira, I could see MANGARA being in a lot of decks. Vito.
Talking about Subira a lot. Are you jealous that I played it on game nights?
I kind of want to build it now that I think about it. I'm just thinking about Hellrider and Subira and all the damage that comes through, and I'm like, I already have 2 other mono red decks. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
Jimmy's like, oh man, that is my jam.
It's my jam. Peanut butter and jam. Let's get it. So make sure you check out cardkingdom.com/commandzone. All you have to do is just type in the affiliate link, browse the site, find things that you may have realized that you needed, right? The site's got tons of stuff, great fast shipping, great customer service, and you're supporting the show directly when you do so. And
another way to support the show is to purchase products from UltraPro. They are the company that Jimmy and I trust to protect our own collections, our own decks. We really can't give a higher praise than that. They're literally the product that we both use day to day. And you want to keep your cards in good condition. You want to keep them safe. UltraPro also has a bunch of other really cool products. They have things like wall scrolls that can go on the wall in your gaming room. I don't know if in this angle you can see it.
A little bit, yeah.
History of Benalia scroll. You've seen them in the background on game nights and things like that. They also have a really cool heavy metal gravity dice. If you've ever used some of the UltraPro dice, you know that as soon as you roll it out there, people are like, whoa, they pick it up, they're heavy. Like
whoa.
Where'd you get these? Yeah, they just feel cool and expensive.
Yeah.
They have relic tokens to sort of make any tokens that you play look cooler and easier to track and things like that.
Much easier to track.
Yeah.
I also had the pleasure of sleeving up not 1, but 2 decks in Eclipse sleeves recently, and I love the experience.
Like butter.
It is really, truly like butter. Even like touching these cards, I'm like, yes.
Oh, yeah, they're
I
in
know
the
what sleeves they're in.
Course, yeah.
Yes. Maybe I'll shuffle them while we're talking.
All right, now it's time for the end step where we talk about something cool outside the world of Magic.
I got nothing.
I have something cool.
All right, cool.
It might be slightly controversial. So for those people, there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I think Jimmy and I have made our opinions about this kind of stuff known if you follow us on Twitter and things. We don't talk about this kind of stuff on the show much.
Yes.
So I understand there's some people out there that disagree with us, but we are definitely both firmly on the side of the Black Lives Matter movement. Listen, I'm not going to preach at everybody here, but what I would like to say is there's a film on Netflix called 13th, and it's by Ava DuVernay, who is a director. She did Selma and some other things. And
one of the few directors trusted to helm a movie also over $100 million budget. So she is, I respect her quite a bit.
Yeah, great director. She's also great on Twitter if you want to follow her.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about here today. I've had a lot of discussions on Twitter. I'm sure you have too, Jimmy, because, there are people on both sides of everything that's going on with the protesting and everything.
Of course.
Here's the thing. I think if you've been listening to Jimmy and I for a long time, which hopefully you have, maybe you disagree with our opinions about this thing, and that's fine. But I think you know that we're thoughtful guys. We're thoughtful people. We don't come to opinions like quickly. We research, we think about it, just like we do with Magic. And I would just say that if you're open at all or questioning what's going on, I think there's a lot of people, obviously, no matter what we say here, we're not going to convince them to agree with us. And like I said, that's fine. But the people that are maybe on the fence or don't know the facts or are wondering what the facts are, I think the film 13th on Netflix will get you started. Now, is one film you're going to watch ever going to be like, hey, here's all the information you need? No, of course not. You should do research and you should look into the things, which I think Jimmy and I both have done to come to the opinions that we're at. And that's all I'd say. Watch 13th. I think it will give you a new lens for a lot of people out there on all the stuff that's going on in the world right now to having to do with the protests and things like that. It's funny. Not funny, but it's weird that you can say all the things going on in the world right now, and it could be 2 different things.
It could be 3 different. It could be so many different things.
So it's been a crazy year, and this, again, it's not going to be our style to talk about this kind of stuff on this show a lot.
Yeah.
But 13th on Netflix, it's a good watch. I think it'll open your eyes to a lot of stuff. There are crazy statistics, and they're verifiable. We have 1/4, 25% of all the incarcerated people in the world in the United States. The United States is like 5% of the world population. So there's something going on there if you want to find out more about it. 13th on Netflix.
I have an end step too that's kind of adjacent, but is more broad in general. Josh, why do we tell people to check out other YouTube channels about Magic?
Because we figure, hey, you like Magic, and we're not covering everything. There's these other things we're fans of, and we want to support them.
Great. So we are getting a diverse opinion set, right?
Right.
We're seeing it from different angles. Professor's reviewing stuff. He has a more critical tone usually towards certain things. You don't see that from us as much. We do criticize WotC from time to time, and we rag on White like crazy, but you get other views by looking to other places. Now, if you only watched us, you would have a very specific viewpoint of the world, right? Of Commander. And I don't think that's right. I think you should try and engage with more stuff. I think it's the exact same, and we don't realize it, but for things like news media, Twitter even, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, TikTok even, you are being fed a very specific slice of things that the internet has deemed that they think you want to watch more of. And that's sort of like the internet's prerogative, right? YouTube wants you to stay on the site more, so it's going to try and recommend you videos that will keep you on the site more. But that also means that you might be only being fed a more and more narrow view of something until that's all you see. So I would encourage people out there to treat the way that they watch news, read news, and discuss and look at normal events around the world in the same way that you approach content creation and things that you watch online. Try to see more than just one viewpoint, because you're going to find out that sometimes the single thing that you saw that made up 90% of your opinion is actually only 10% of the facts. So the more you see...
Listen, that's true for if you're on the left side of the aisle or the right side of the aisle, because I've seen the extreme liberal stuff and you're like,
oh boy.
That's just as bad, quote unquote. That's just as incorrect as the thing I'm seeing on the other side of the aisle, even though it's closer to what I agree with. That's not true either.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just in this weird day and age where it's hard to find truth. It really is. It's, the first time maybe in human history we're in this point. So I understand why a lot of people are having troubles with it. Yeah. I think, like I said, whether you agree with us or not, hopefully you can respect the fact that Jimmy and I are thoughtful guys. We come to our opinions for reasons. I'm sure a lot of people are out there are the same way. So I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just saying, and I think you're saying the same thing.
Engage more, watch more, just learn everything.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
All right. I threw my paper, but
here you go.
Big thanks to our editing, graphics, and logistics team, which is Craig Brownshett, Ashlyn Rose, Lady Danger, Manson Lung, Alfred Estaka, Josh Murphy, Jake Boss, and Sam Waldo.
And big thanks, as always, to Geoffrey Palmer. Follow him on Living Cards MTG. He's actually breaking down how he makes the animated cards that live behind us here on set, as well as the animations that start and end this show, which you're about to see right about now, because that's the end of the episode. Goodbye, everyone.
All right, thanks for watching.
We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.